Hello everyone, this is Adam Humphreys again, and not really doing any serious tutorials today, but I probably will next weekend. Got a sinus infection. I was wanting to thank everyone for all the comments and the subscriptions, and that's just awesome. That's the encouragement that definitely keeps me going. And I had plans on doing this, and this is also an encouragement to you. I'd like to show you what we can do with the things I've kind of gone through so far. I'm not gonna do a tutorial on how to make this, but how I made it. So I think you can understand that from what I've discussed in the previous videos. All right. First of all, I'm gonna hit the A button, which is actually redraw. So here it is. That's what it looks like, and it's smooth right now. So if I hit the Q button, it'll unsmooth it right here. And these we haven't discussed UV texturing yet, but there's actually no fixed geometry here. These are made up of nothing but splines and profiles for those splines, and gradients for the texture. Here's the texture. It's just made of layers with overlay. We give it some noise, some depth, gradient. And that color is just there as a base color. It really doesn't do anything right here, in case you just want a solid color. So that doesn't do anything. But it's just a gradient overlay and noise. Give it some texture. So you notice if we render it here, it has some nice texture to it. And you'll notice that also that's really small scale here. And that's just because of the scale I do things at. So it's 5% global scale. You'd probably have it much bigger. I work at a smaller scale, so it's easier to import things into Maya if I need to. So I just leave everything at a pretty small scale. But if we open it up here, open up just one of these canyon planes. I have 3 of them right here. If we open up just one of them, we can see that it's made up of just nothing but a bunch of arrays, which duplicates an object around. So that's all it is several layers of these, and notice this is an instance, and it's just offset a little bit from the center. Other than that, though, if we disable all these, and all we get is a bunch of leaves that we just rotated around this plant. And if we go to the flower, notice it's just, the stem is nothing but sweep nerve. And however, I did do something that we probably didn't discuss in the details. I used the scale here to determine what the size is at the tip and at the end. Instead of just using this end scale, I decided to actually have full control over that with a curve. But that's should be fairly simple enough to understand. And inside, that's just the profile, and that's the spline. Go into points here, hit Control A. Actually, let's go to grid mode. There we go. So you can probably see all those points in there. That's the stem. Let's hide the stem. Alt and click. And now all we got is our leaves, and that pretty much makes up the rest of those. And the flower is made more or less the same way, apart from the seeds, which is just sweep nerves once again. Sweep nerves and a gradient for the colors here. That's pretty much it. But it's because of the way that sweep nerve, it just creates a flat UV, so you can just use a gradient. It goes from one end to the other. It is dependent on your first point on your profile, and I'm fixing to follow that right now. So yeah, these are just different sizes and shapes here, and we're just going to look at one of them. So if we hide all these except for one, alright, here we are. Let's look at this one here. Take it apart, if you will. Here's the profile shape. So this is actually the leaf. the leaf, excuse me. And this is the first point. That's the point where it immediately starts making the UV map. It makes it just flat across, and it's completely even. So from this point to this point to this point to this next point are actually equally spaced in the UV map. But that's pretty much irrelevant if you're using a gradient instead of Cinema 4D. It'll pretty much hold it too. But if you had a point in the middle, then you could split it perfectly down the middle. If you notice real close here that these are not quite in from left to right. Let me open this up here. So that's it. So some odd percentage, but it still works. I just didn't want to mess with that. So it works really well. And there's the spline that just makes the profile for the leaf. And of course we stuck all of this inside of a HyperNURB. Actually all the different varieties of plants I have. I actually have quite a few. I'm going to hit undo a few times so we can get the plant actually to come back. But I want you to notice that this wasn't real serious brain work. And actually would have been nice if I could, instead of using all these arrays, use the cloner object to probably make these a little bit better, a little bit more variety, and they wouldn't collide. But I'm stuck with the core version, unless someone would like to upgrade me. So, and of course that's just one plant. This is done much more or less the same way, and this pretty much using a bunch of sweep NURBs, and again arrays and whatnot. So really actually fairly simple stuff. It looks really neat. It's close up, but when you come right down to it, it's fairly simple. And if we zoom out here, we see we're actually in a canyon I had made, and this canyon also is just made with a bunch of splines and a loft, and that's really pretty much it. You see the texture here has a displacement here, and that gives it the extra shape after we render it. But if you need to place things in here, then I would definitely probably not have the displacement there. You'd probably make this edible and then edit the geometry, shift it around probably with the brush tool that I discussed, so that way when you're placing things they won't change when you render it. That would be a bummer, like if you're placing things right along the surface and you're like, oh no, it's not supposed to move. So just some words of encouragement here, and if you want to see the whole scene, this actually does use lighting, the rendering I'm doing. I haven't gone over that, but I'm just using a general 3-point lighting setup, but the lights are far out there, so it gives some nice ambient daytime effect there. But that's pretty much my canyon. And I did use a texture for this, but it's an image, but it's still, I didn't UV map anything for this either. It's still in Loft NURB. And this, I got this texture. Alright, let's take a look at that texture. I'm running out of time here. Alright, the bump. Yes, I used the bump. I just copied the channel probably from the color. No, not quite. But you see, we used a type of noise for the bump. Right here, noise. Told you noise comes in real handy, especially for bumps. And that's what I used to get the actual depth effect that we see here. That we see in the render here. So just some really simple stuff. Yeah, we know it. The end result is really awesome. The water itself, the water is just a bunch of planes I made. It's just a flat plane underneath, a flat plane underneath it all. I did have to model that. That was really easy. That's just the way I did it. Just keep it simple. So that's my canyon and my plants to go with it. And if you wanna, I'll probably show you more later. All right, see ya.